As a woman, have you noticed increased risk of heartburn as you've gotten older? Maybe you're taking hormone replacement therapy and you've also noticed increased heartburn, acid reflux. There is a correlation there and it is significant, but there's good news. So what is the increased risk? Just with age, the increased risk is about 47%. Women who are taking hormone replacement therapy, the increased risk is anywhere from 30 to 66%. Why is that? Hormones, especially progesterone, can relax what's called smooth muscle. Now, what's significant about that with reflux is that what prevents reflux is a sphincter or a valve in your lower esophagus. So your esophagus is the tube that connects your mouth all the way down to your stomach. And there are valves. There's an upper one and a lower one. But the lower one is just above the stomach. And what it does is it opens when food and drink are coming, but then it closes down with a nice downward pressure when food and drink have passed. So most of the time it's closed with that nice downward pressure and it's preventing reflux. So it's preventing acid from coming up from the stomach. So with increased progesterone, that muscle relaxes a little bit and you can get what's called transient reflux because it's not closing fully and strongly with that nice downward pressure, then acid can creep up and you can get reflux. So I've had some comments on the channel where women are saying, what do I do? Does this mean I'm stuck with having to take a proton pump inhibitor, which is a type of antacid medication, or do I take less hormones? What do I have to do? So there's a correlation here for sure, but is it causative? Meaning with taking hormone replacement therapy, you're absolutely going to have acid reflux. No, there's plenty of women who are taking hormone replacement therapy who do not have acid reflux. So what we want to do is we want to look at the benefits of hormone replacement therapy, which are many. So it protects our heart, our bones, our brain, our urinary tract. So as we get older, we're more likely to get infections, urinary tract infections, because those tissues get dry down below. And so being on hormones keeps them nice and moist. If you take your tongue right now and you feel the inside of your cheek, that's how those tissues should be and should feel. But as we get older and hormone levels drop, they get drier, and you can actually get the toxins from urine getting into your bloodstream and getting systemic infections, which can absolutely be life-threatening. So this is a serious risk. It's not just, some burning with urination. As we get older, women are really at risk for systemic infections because the urinary tract is not nice and moist and protective the way it should be. So even localized hormones, vaginal hormones, can be very helpful for that if for some reason a woman can't get on the systemic type. A lot of protective benefits of being on hormone replacement therapy. So I don't want you to think, I have to get off it now because I don't want this miserable acid reflux. So the mechanism is clear that being on the hormones, especially progesterone, can weaken the smooth muscle, like the sphincter I was just talking about. And as long as you have a uterus, you do want to be on progesterone. If for some reason your uterus has been removed, then your hormone replacement therapy could just be estrogen or estrogen and testosterone. You can review all of that with your gynecologist, but the progesterone is absolutely needed if you have a uterus to make sure you don't get uterine cancer. In other words, it's not so simple as saying, I don't want the relaxation of my smooth muscle in my esophagus, so I'll just stop my progesterone. You don't want to do that if you have a uterus. That could be dangerous. My point here is that, yes, it relaxes that sphincter, but it does so in individuals that already have a predisposition, and that's what I want to discuss because there are plenty of women taking hormone replacement therapy that do not have acid reflux. Why? Because they don't have the predispositions that we're about to discuss. So what predisposes you to acid reflux? You can be someone with a lot of gas and bloating, constipation. If you have visceral fat, meaning you have fat around your abdomen, that's where you're holding your belly weight, that puts pressure on your stomach. So it has a lot to do with pressure being placed on the stomach. The stomach is a bag of acid, it's supposed to be, but when pressure is placed on it. It's almost like squeezing a balloon full of water. If you squeeze it, the water's going to shoot out the top. Well, in the case of the stomach, the acid is going to shoot out at the top, which is your esophagus, and that's when you have the heartburn. So what we want to get to and normalize is not having that excess pressure on the stomach, which can come from a variety of factors. You can be eating foods that you're sensitive to that are acting more like a toxin than they are a source of nutrition. You can already be on a proton pump inhibitor or some sort of antacid, and when you decrease the acid in your stomach, then bacteria that come in just as part and parcel of eating. It's not bad food hygiene. They're just there. But if you don't have enough acid, you're not killing those bacteria. And then what they do is they increase infections throughout the gut. They create increased pressure. They increase imbalance of the good bacteria and bad bacteria in your colon. It's important to note that as we get older, we naturally make less stomach acid. So sometimes augmenting with betaine hydrochloric acid, with digestive enzymes, that's something you should review with your doctor, can really help to make sure that the motion through your stomach and small intestine is happening at a good pace. Things are not too slow. When it's too slow, you get that buildup of pressure, you get the buildup of bad organisms, and that can create reflux. Also, if things are too slow or you're getting bad organisms, you get what's called dysbiosis, which is too many bad organisms in the colon, not enough good. That creates pressure, it creates constipation, it creates bloat and gas. So all of this is describing why we have that increased pressure on the stomach. From another direction, we can have a weakness of the diaphragm. Now, if you are very sedentary, you don't get much in the way of exercise, you tend to sit very hunched over, you can be doing a lot of shallow breathing. So you're breathing more with your upper chest than your lower abdomen. And I was just earlier talking about that lower sphincter of the esophagus. Similarly, where your esophagus passes through your diaphragm to connect to your stomach, there's a sphincter, there's a valve there as well, is part of your diaphragm. And when you have a diaphragm that's healthy and strong, then that acts as a redundant sphincter. So the lower esophageal sphincter is closing with that nice downward pressure that I mentioned, that gets a little bit weakened when you're on hormones. But the diaphragm has its own sphincter. It's a different type of muscle. So it's not affected the way the esophagus is, which is very pertinent. So we can have a strong diaphragm. So the diaphragm has a valve at the very same level as the esophagus has its sphincter. So we've been talking about that sphincter or valve in the esophagus getting a little weaker because you're on hormones. Well, the diaphragm doesn't have that problem. So if we have a nice strong diaphragm, that's acting as an anti-reflux valve as well. So to practice belly breathing, get more active. You can practice what's called the physiological sigh. You can do box breathing. These are all types of belly breathing that really strengthens the diaphragm. And that's going to be a very key point in making sure you don't get the reflux. We also want to look at how your vagus nerve is functioning. Sometimes people are in a very high stress mode, what's called fight or flight. You'll know if you're there, you have trouble relaxing, you have a lot of anxiousness, your brain is just running a mile a minute all the time, you have trouble either falling asleep and or staying asleep. So you can be in this vagus, low vagus tone it's called, because when the vagal tone or the vagal function is optimal, you have a nice balance of fight or flight when you're, being busy, and then rest, digest, and relax when you're not. And those two have to be in balance. There's two parts of your nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Well, the vagus runs the parasympathetic, and not only is it rest, digest, and relax, but that digest part feeds into all the parts of the gut and how they function. So poor vagal tone can affect how the stomach and the esophagus are functioning. Also the heart. Sometimes people have heart palpitations when they get into fight or flight, or as part of hiatal hernia syndrome, which comes subsequent a lot of times to acid reflux. So this all ties in together. So when we're evaluating this, we want to say, why is it that you are sort of fertile ground for these hormones to take you to that next little level and cause acid reflux? It's just a little bump. What's below it is more important. Do you have food sensitivities? Do you have bad bacteria in the gut? Is your motility of your colon too slow? Do we have toxins? Do we have infections, chronic infections that we need to address? How is the diaphragm working? How is the vagus nerve working? That might sound like a long list, but it's not. And it's pretty easy to address naturally. You have to find a clinician who understands how to address all of these rather simply and naturally. It doesn't require medication in the main, but that will give you that stability of your gut function and your diaphragm function and your vagus nerve function, so that being on the hormones, that little bump that the hormones give you that would lend toward acid reflux, won't happen because you have such nice stability. So this is exciting because I did this video as a result of a request from someone who subscribes to my channel. She goes, I really want you to address this. And I thought, that's so great, because it was one of those, I've got a long list of things that I want to discuss with you, but sometimes somebody brings it up, I'm like, yes, now's the time. So I really wanted to discuss this because I don't want women to think that, wow, I really want the benefits of these hormones, but now I have to be on a proton pump inhibitor. And the very side effects of the proton pump inhibitor are exactly what the hormones are trying to help you with. So that's a catch-22 you don't want to be in the middle of. And it doesn't have to be one or the other at all. You can really get to the root of this properly. You can get all the benefits of the hormones and not see any liability on your digestive tract. So I hope that makes sense. If you want further assistance, let us know. We're here for you. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, definitely comment. I love your comments. And if you have ideas for other topics you want to hear about, I will be more than happy to hear those as well. Okay, we'll talk soon.